today we are reading day 7, and the name of the book, the title is You Can Only Do What You Can Do. And this comes from A Gracious Face Spring, found in our store or on Amazon.com. All right, here we go. Every new season seduces parents into believing they can fly. There's something about the start of a new time of year. The blank slate, the brand new, the no mistakes made yet, the intoxicating elixir of this season will be different. Whatever failed in fall or winter is now up for reevaluation and redoubling of effort. The urgency to get something done for year-end evaluations, or to satisfy a skeptical spouse, or to appease your own fantasy of what should be happening in your homeschool is surging. The temptation is great. To completely change gears or programs, or to load up on one particular subject area, or to revamp your schedule so that the one neglected child who was happily playing Minecraft all day is now required to sit at the kitchen table for 2 hours straight every morning to prove to you that he is in fact being homeschooled. My caution, slow down, Bessie. You can't change who you are with the snap of your fingers or all the alarms and whistles of your smartphone. No one new piece of curriculum will transform your personal style of being or your natural family rhythm. Worse, if you do the big overhaul right now, you may upend all that lovely settling in that would naturally happen in January or the spring, the middle of the school year. Huge shifts in philosophy or practice feel like whiplash to kids. They sense that the changes mean whatever came before was not good enough. And what if they were reasonably happy doing whatever before? What if they were just getting the hang of the math book or copywork or the system you use to study history? It's hard to commit to an experiment too. Your children aren't reading the home education discussion lists, and they aren't necessarily worried about their educations. You worry. That's your job. So what should you do if you are dissatisfied with the program or the schedule or the feel of your homeschool at this point in the year? Pause. Take notes. Let yourself consider the good of what is going on in your homeschool before you assume it is all wrong or messed up. I remember one year when I thought we weren't doing enough dictation. I had some fantasy that we do it a couple times per week per child. In January, I pulled out our notebooks where I collected their work, page after page of dictation. It wound up being that each child, the 3 who were writing, had practiced dictation 2 to 3 times per month already, and that meant they had done dictation practice 8 to 10 times. These dictations in the shiny clear page protectors showed remarkable effort and growth. Did they need more dictation than that? The answer turned out to be no. But the temptation to revamp the schedule was so strong, I almost revamped without that backward glance. It was a fluke that led me to examine the notebooks and to recognize that with my personality and our busy lives, getting to some form of dictation 2 to 3 times a month was not only pretty good, it was getting the job done. This is what I want you to consider. It may actually be true that the practices in place from fall are enough and are a true reflection of who you are already. It's good to pause, to look through workbooks, to flip through photos, to remind yourself of all the ways you explored learning in the world in the fall. To make an adjustment, follow this plan to help you and your kids make authentic, reasonable changes. Change one egregious subject only. Don't get swept up into the change it all plan. Save that for summer when you have time to really think through how the new philosophy will work. If the subject getting you down is your awful co-op composition class for 5th grade, drop it. If your daughter despises the Wordly Wise workbook, shred it. If the math text is confusing even to you, a full-grown adult, replace it. Overhaul the one truly awful component in your homeschool. Make logistical changes first. Rather than throw in the towel on dictation, try new tools or a new environment to see if those recast the practice. You might move dictation to a new time of day, or add candles or brownies, or use a digital recorder and let the child do dictation alone in his bedroom. Or try typing dictation rather than handwriting. Or let the child select her own passage, or have the children pair up to do dictation of jokes with each other. Or use gel pens and black line paper. The point is, sometimes the practice is fine, but the context is tedious or unhelpful. Another option, reevaluate pace. Does the child need to work every single math problem if she already understands the concept? Can you skip the odds for a few chapters? Perhaps skip a full chapter. Perhaps you've been overdoing it on free writing. Time to take a break and only have experiences, read books, and play with poetry before free writing again. If you are trapped in ancient Greece in history, kids are into it and you are sick of it. Consider ways to rehook your interest to accommodate theirs. You don't have to follow the 4-year history cycle just because a book tells you to. And finally, add or take away one regular out-of-the-house trip. For some families, if you just stayed home one more afternoon or day, you'd find that everything works beautifully. You'd have enough time and space for everything without rushing or hurrying or interrupting the flow. But there are some families who are home so much the kids are utterly bored of the 4 walls and need an exit. Add one exciting outing. Even going to the mall, the park, a coffee shop, the zoo, McDonald's play place, a friend's house, the library. These can change the vibe of family life and give you something to look forward to. You can't fly. You can only do what you do a little better than you are doing it now until it stops feeling better and you have to tweak it again. Be patient. Trust the process. Go do something amazing that enlivens you. Take on a big goal like traveling for a weekend away with girlfriends to see the Chicago Art Institute, or running a half marathon, or going to a cooking class, or signing up to get your master's degree online. You're already doing a better job than you realize. I know because I know. Quote of the day. Thanks so much, Julie. I will step back from the cliff of changing everything and make some little tweaks instead. Katrina Fisher. Sustaining thought. Small changes can lead to enlarged learning experiences for you and for your kids. Let me just add, we have a saying in Brave Writer. In the fall, classical scheduled education. In the winter, Charlotte Mason. And in the spring, what's in the spring? Unschooling. That is the natural degenerating process of education. So if there is that one big project that you wish you had fit in, and now you're in the spring of your school year, save it for the fall. Fall energy is up for big projects. Spring is like magnifying glasses, getting outside, smelling the fragrance of all those beautiful blooms in your yard, looking for bugs. That's spring. Spring is kicking the soccer ball in the backyard and reciting times tables while you do it. It's not sitting at a kitchen table. So get your homeschool off the table and out into the big world. That's what spring invites, especially in places that have had snow and cloistered. I know if you live in Southern California or Phoenix, Arizona, maybe this is your time to start pulling in because the heat is ramping up. You know best. You know what rhythm you're in. Right now, Australia is in the thick of their fall. This is the time for that big project, to break out a brand new book with a crisp spine that you're ready to open and dive into. Fall energy has that self-starting feel, and spring has this breaking out of jail feel. Indulge it, honor it, notice it, allow yourself the freedom to choose that. And I noticed in this reading, I mentioned January a couple of times. Probably this original post on Facebook happened in January. But what I've noticed is that each season, whether it's September, January, or April, invites that reevaluation, that change of tempo. And you get to coordinate your family life with that. When I recommended eliminating one excursion out of your house, I don't mean to tell your kids they can't be on the soccer team or that they should give up acting class. Here's the one I want you to eliminate: the dentist appointment. Can't we do those in the summer? Can't we do the annual trips to the doctor in the summer? Don't give up a school day for that. Save them for the time when you have the least stress on you. Don't do your big trip to Target on Tuesday afternoon, because now maybe you are creating this feeling of an overburdened life. You have soccer, you have softball, you have, whatever church camp your kids are involved in, or you have the observatory club, or you're really big into geocaching because it's spring. Well, then don't overburden the week with trips to Target and the dentist and the doctor. Save those. Save Target for the weekend. Do those dental and doctory trips in July when you have less of a responsibility to get schoolwork done. You will feel relieved just knowing that. And you could just make that your annual commitment. I realize some of you have orthodontists, or you have therapists, visual tracking processing, or a reading specialist to see. Well, those matter. So look at your plan and make sure that you maximize where you put those in the schedule. Maybe save those for the end of the week or the start of the week where you have a little bit more margin, and you make sure that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday feel like the times when you can count on more routine. These are little tricks that many of us have learned over the years in the veteran trenches because we've done it the wrong way. I used to sit there at the dental office or the orthodontist office, and they'd say, "When are you free?" And I'd be like, "Oh, the morning." Because I would think, hey, I'm a homeschooler, I can do this in the morning. Why? Why not just say no? The hours of 9 to 2 are as sacred for me as they would be if they were at the local public school. And by just making that commitment and joining the melee of students who are after-school dental people, I at least have now protected a time when reading aloud is optimal. If you go to the dentist at 9 in the morning, you'll probably not do your read aloud that day. You'll probably skip writing. Does that seem true to you? Seems true to me. Let's see what some of you are saying. Yes. Oh, good. These are great. Christy says spring makes her want to drop it all. And why wouldn't it? And why wouldn't you? I spent many a spring letting homeschool peter out. I have this joke that there was never an end date in my homeschool. It just sort of like slid into summer, right? Like certain subjects we kept going, but some we just like gave up on, When we had spent 2 years in ancient Greece, by April or May, I didn't want to read any more ancient Greece. That was just up to my kids to keep it going if they wanted to. But I wasn't going to be conscientious about it. I was up to here with the gods and the traditions, and I didn't care, And sometimes the spring is a great time to just introduce a one-off subject that you don't have the patience or energy for the whole year. So that's why we offer our Shakespeare family workshop or a Shakespeare class in the spring, because then you have this one meaty thing that you don't do all year, but you can sort of get energized for it. Make sense? Maybe take your kids to a play or a musical. Maybe this is the time that you decide to paint your daughter's bedroom and you listen to music. Johanna introduced Katrin to musicals by painting her bedroom. They would just put music on in the background, all from musicals, and they just painted the bedroom, and that was a spring activity. Well, how amazing. Musicals are now Katrin's gateway drug. It's her favorite way to listen to music. So she's attended musicals. She knows the canon. She watches the Tonys every year. When it's her birthday, she wants to go to a musical. So don't devalue things like painting a bedroom, listening to an audiobook, right? That counts. And spring is a great time to turn your kids loose on these big projects that are messy. We had a table for years that was this pine table that, the way it gets all carved into from all the writing your kids do. So I wanted to sand it down and paint it turquoise blue. So that was a daily project. We just all had sandpaper and we just stand around sanding and talking, and then eventually we painted it, and they loved painting. So we just moved into different rooms and we painted all the patio furniture, and my gosh, what a great spring project. And math kind of stopped, but painting was huge. Painting was what we did that spring. Yeah, there you go. Now, see, Erin is explaining that she has morning time energy that's different than afternoon energy. That's fabulous. And that's the way it should be. You figure out for your family where the activity needs to come from and where it needs to be. And you can decide on these seasons in quite the same way. What else? Oh, Susan says they just go nocturnal. Honestly, I think I shared this last week on an email that I got from someone. She was asking how to get her son to be interested in writing. And he's an ADHD child. And I said, you know, my son Liam could only do writing at night. So we would, after dinner, when everybody else was cleared out doing whatever they were doing on the computer, watching TV, you know, reading a book, he and I would go to a table by ourselves, and it would be just the two of us. And we would do it in the evening. That's when I had his full attention. He couldn't do it with daylight hours and the dog running around and children talking, and he needed one-on-one. He needed to be done with his energy, and it needed to be sort of a hushed environment where we could really drill down into his brain. Remember that you are homeschoolers. You literally have the 24-hour clock available to you. And I've shared many a time, resistant teenage writers, tell them they can't write except at midnight by candlelight. It will change it for them. And they might actually find that just knowing it's a sort of secretive, mysterious experience draws out a different personality in the writing. Change it up. Be open-minded. Don't reproduce school at home. Tap into the properties of home to help you homeschool. You know, that's why I have the joke, #add-brownies. Because anything that isn't sort of engaging can at least be boosted by the idea of snacking on something yummy, right? I mean, it's just a principle. I'm not saying you have to make brownies, but you could, right? You can add that magical pixie dust feature and help boost the energy level again. And spring invites that. Rebecca said her writing projects turned into comic strips. How awesome. Writing comic books all day. What a great use. What else? Oh, I'm so glad you're catching me live. Yes, Jamie says that she did protect her schedule a lot this year. That's fabulous. I want you to know, too, that this is an endless process. You will be tweaking your homeschool experience the entire time you homeschool. You know when you know what you did? After it's over. I know what I did now, because all 5 of my kids are adults. While I was homeschooling them, every single year was reinvention. You never get fully comfortable. You're never set. You never get to just like put it on cruise control and sail down the homeschool highway. That never happens. What happens instead is that you become more comfortable tweaking. You become a more skilled tweaker. T-W-E-A-K, tweak. If you watched You've Got Mail, you know what that's from. You know what I'm saying? So give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to keep reimagining the homeschool and draw from a variety of perspectives. Do not feel like you owe allegiance to Charlotte Mason or Brave Writer or The Well-Trained Mind or IEW or Sunlight or Rebecca or Classical Education or Read Aloud Revival. You get to cultivate the homeschool that you want. You pick and choose from that menu of options, and you craft the tailor-made Bogart homeschool. That is your privilege and right. When I teach about updating Charlotte Mason to the 21st century, what I often say is, you are Charlotte Mason. You're the educational innovator. You get to curate an educational experience that is right for your family. And then you get to share that with other homeschoolers who then get to learn from you. And vice versa, you'll learn from them. And that tweaking process creates a deep satisfaction. You know why? No one can hold you accountable for what you create for yourself. You know how nice that is? You know how nice that is? You won't fail to live up to somebody else's standard. You will be forging a path for your own standards. you'll know what you're doing works for your family. And no one can peer in over your shoulder and tell you, well, you're not really in the club, because there's a club of one and all your kids. And I hope more and more home educators really take that ground back and say those words in those groups. We have a right to our own educational philosophies, and we are cultivating them a day at a time, an hour at a time. And you have so much depth. If you've been at this job for even 2 years, you already know so much about education because you've been patiently observing your children, and you've been tweaking what feels right, and you've been encountering theory and putting it into practice and finding out if it's a match. Isn't that why you homeschooled? You didn't homeschool so that somebody else would impose a new system on you. You just abandoned a system. You just left the school system. Your right and privilege as a home educator is to cultivate your own theory of education, pulling from multiple sources, developing your own little PhD of homeschool for your family. And it takes all the years you do it to create it, and it won't be over till the last child leaves home. Got it? I hope that's liberating to you. When I came to that realization for myself, it was life-changing. I was so sick of being told, well, you're not a real fill in the blank unless you do X. You're not really a classical educator if you don't do the 4-year history cycle. You're not really an unschooler if you ever look at a page that came out of a curriculum. You're not really Charlotte Mason if you don't read Plutarch's Lives. I mean, are you sick of that yet? I'm fed up. You're not really a brave writer if you don't free write. Hello, it's fine with me if you don't free write. Free writing is a gateway. I've suggested principles around free writing, but the spirit of free writing is freedom. I would be an absolute hypocrite if I said you had to follow my plan or you weren't really freely writing. I found out from my daughter last week that Annie Proulx, the writer of Brokeback Mountain and Shipping News and Close Range, spoke to her best friend's English class at University of Pittsburgh last week. So I was eager to hear all about it because I'm a massive Annie Proulx fan. I think she's one of the most brilliant writers I've ever read of fiction. She got her first work published at age 56. That gives all of us hope that there is life after homeschool. And here's what she said to those students. Write longhand. Get a black ink pen that you love and write all your works on a yellow legal pad. Write them out longhand on beautiful paper. Don't use a computer. And I thought immediately, well, I think that'd be fun to try, but that's not what I'm ever going to do, Annie Proulx. She was sharing it, though, as her principal. Would that make me less of her student if I literally choose not to do what she did? No, I can learn plenty from her without writing all of my works longhand if I don't want to. And that's what I want you to understand. When somebody that is your guru shares information with you, you still get to filter it through the you that you are. You can only do what you can do. And you get to decide what that is. And no one else has the right to take that away from you. And so I want you to be curious, to explore. I am absolutely going to write something longhand this week just to see what I feel about it again, because somebody I admired recommended that. But I am not going into it thinking that somehow if I don't do what she said, I am less of a fan of hers and can't learn from her. Does that make sense? And that's how I want you to treat Brave Writer for sure. The other groups, totally up to them, I suppose, if they'll let you in the door or not. But you personally, you get to decide. You get to decide. You get to decide. Isn't that powerful? Isn't that awesome? Isn't that why you chose to be a home educator to begin with? To be in charge of your own life and your own kids and the education they get? Yes, 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 yes. Good. Looks like it's resonating. That's what I wanted to find out. Yes. In fact, Erin recommends listening to the most recent episode of the Brave Writer podcast. Season 2 just ended with a bang. Melissa Wiley. Woo! She's incredible. You got to hear her talk about title homeschooling. You got to hear about what her daughter in college said about homeschooling, the places where Melissa could have prepared her better, and then the places where she prepared her better than ever. Because that's going to be true for all of you too. You can't do it all. You're going to do what you do. You're going to do as much as you can. You're going to do it to the best of your ability. Your limits are absolutely going to limit your kids. You can't escape it. You're going to limit your children. You will not take advantage of every opportunity. You're going to overlook some strengths that you should have encouraged. And you're also going to overlook some limits you should have addressed. Yes, you are. You cannot stop being human. You will never be a Greek goddess. You are human. All of that's going to happen, and your kids are still going to get an education. They're still going to make it to adulthood, and you are still going to be involved and caring for the rest of their lives. And that dialogue will not end. And even when they're in college and law school and out of college, you will still shape some of who they are because the conversations don't end. And the shared reading and the podcasts. I was with 3 of my kids, one from University of Pittsburgh, one year 2 at Columbia Law, and one computer programmer currently looking for a job. And we shared podcasts, articles, discussions about books we're reading, philosophy of education, music, and family memories in 24 hours together. That's what it looks like to hang out with my kids. That's what it's going to look like to hang out with yours. Because homeschooling never ends. The education at a kitchen table, that ends. But the culture of a homeschooled family, you're in for the long haul. And it just gets better. And they take over. They educate me now. They send me the links. They tell me what to listen to. They ask my opinions about politics. They tell me which thoughts I'm having are not legit. And I have to listen because most of them know more than me now. They're young. They're hungry. They're not jaded. They still believe the world can turn out. Oh, it's the best energy to be around when you're 55. And you're going to have that too. You are, I promise. So keep going. Be a trailblazer. Be your own woman. Be Charlotte Mason. Be the person who has confidence in her choices until something inside you tells you, that's not working. Not when somebody shames you or tells you you don't qualify or you don't count or you can't be in this group. Don't listen to those people. And you can always hang out in our group. There is literally nothing that could disqualify you. You can be in Brave Writer however you are, with whatever background, whatever piece of the puzzle of Brave Writer helps you be who you want to be. Thank you for letting us in. Thank you for participating. Thank you for bringing the dynamic that is you for us to consider so that we can grow and expand and not just be narrowly attached to one way of doing and being. Each person adds something better, and I'm glad to have you here. You can purchase A Gracious Space Spring at our website or Amazon. Please leave us a review on Amazon.com. We are starting to see them increase a little. I so appreciate it. If you value the book and value these broadcasts, that's how you can say thank you to me. And now, let's close. Live honestly. Write bravely. And be your own home education hero. I believe in you. Have a fantastic day. I'm Julie Bogart from Brave Writer. See you next week.